Every Time the Lamp Flickers by Wicked0327. I think this has to be my favorite day of the year. The first cold front coming through after an oppressively hot summer along the coast is a blessed change. A far cry from the 100% humidity we cope with every day, the air has a crisp quality and makes me want to spend the entire day outside. As evening set in, getting darker earlier and earlier as the year goes forward, I clicked on the lamp beside the couch, wrapped a light blanket around my legs, and settled down to read the latest novel by my favorite author. The wind was whipping hard outside. I could clearly hear it, but somehow it gave me comfort. I was barely past the latest chapter when the light from the lamp flickered. The way the wind was blowing, it came as no surprise that we may lose power, or at the very least, have it blink in and out. So I wasn't fazed. I got up and lit candles around the house, just in case. When I sat back down with my book, I stared at the page. I couldn't remember where I left off. I flipped back a couple of pages and nothing seemed familiar to me. It was as though I was reading the words for the first time. I tried to think of the last thing that I could remember from the story and flipped back to find it. It was several chapters back. I shrugged it off. I attributed it to a sort of disassociative state. Everyone has those from time to time, like when you're driving home after a long day and zoning out, then suddenly realize you're nearly home. It had to be something along those lines. No harm, no foul, just pick up from where I left off. I made it about 5 pages before the lights flickered again, so I got up to light candles, just in case I lose power. But there are candles lit. I don't remember doing that. I walked through all of the rooms and each one had a lit candle. I could tell by the amount of wax melted that they weren't lit long ago. You would think I would remember lighting them. As I crossed into the kitchen, I saw the lamp in the living room flicker. I looked around the kitchen and couldn't remember what I came in here for. Maybe a cup of tea on a cold, blustery night. I filled the kettle and set it on the burner, then headed back to the couch while I waited to hear it whistle. I decided to text my best friend, Stacy, and tell her about my strange night. I told her about not remembering the book, not remembering lighting the candles, and that I still don't know why I went to the kitchen, but a cup of tea sounded nice. She got back to me, asking if I had been in any sort of accident, if I had taken a tumble and hurt my head, or anything that could account for the memory loss. I told her I hadn't, that it had been an uneventful day at home and nothing of note happened. She told me to let her know if anything else happened, that she was worried about me, and I said I would. As the kettle whistled, I set down my phone and went to make a cup of tea. I curled up back on the couch while my tea steeped on the end table next to the lamp. After about 2 minutes, I reached for my tea and the lamp flickered. I picked up my cup and blew on it as my phone chimed that I'd gotten a message. It said it was from someone named Stacy. I don't know anyone by that name. I opened the message and read it. It said she was just checking on me. This makes no sense. I scrolled up. There were messages back and forth between us, and it went on and on and on. I made my way back to where she says she is checking on me and read what was written right above it. It said that I have been having trouble remembering things, but that I have no idea what could have caused it. This is really starting to freak me out. Then the lamp flickered. Thank you guys for listening to this story by Wicked0327, but I have one more for you, so don't go anywhere. Scratches on the Window by Frank the Senate. I'm sure many of you have at some point fantasized about everybody in the world just disappearing instantly one day. How fun it would be to explore the world like that. Well, let's just say it's not an experience I'll ever wish to live through again after the events I'm about to disclose. That day, I woke up just like any other morning. It was in the winter, the 18th of December 2020 to be precise. I remember the date specifically because the forecast had been promising first snow for 3 weeks at that point, and I was growing increasingly impatient with waking up and looking out the window only to see the same picture. Amber leaves on the verge of rotting, covering our backyard and the street, accompanied by the monochrome, pale gray sky. So that day, I very reluctantly dragged myself from beneath the blanket and forced myself to undergo the tedious journey to the window, fully prepared to witness the same depressing palette of the fall, only to be greeted by a pleasantly surprising sight. As far as the eye could see, the ground, roofs, everything was pure, crystal clear white, glistening in the sun. I live in Central Europe, and the last couple of years the winters have been pretty warm, so snow is really special to me nowadays. Judging by the amount on the roof of our little tool shed, the ground was now covered by some good 15 inches of snow that fell overnight. I was ecstatic. I looked up at the bunk bed where my brother sleeps, intending to wake him up unceremoniously to show him what was going on outside. But he wasn't there. His bag was still next to the writing table, so I figured he was in the kitchen with Mom and Dad, still eating breakfast. I rushed out of our room and ran down the hallway, eager to express my happiness caused by the glorious metamorphosis of the outside world. But when I reached the living room, no one was there. The dining table was still covered in leftovers of snacks we were eating during game night yesterday. I shrugged it off, thinking that my mom probably slept in and didn't have enough time to prepare us breakfast or clean up the table for that matter. I walked up to the window to check our driveway. Both our cars were there. Mom never drives to work. She is a teacher and the school is just a few blocks down the street. But Dad works in the city, and he hates public transport. Then it hit me. He probably didn't switch tires yet, although I lived under the impression that he had those universal ones. I pushed the doubts away. My memory is not the best after all, and turned my attention back to the mess on the table. With great contempt, I cleaned it up, since I'm apparently the only person in this household who's trying to keep the place nice, and I had some milk and cereal for breakfast. As I was munching on the soggy cornflakes, after my temporary rush from seeing so much white outside faded a little bit, I started to think about the morning. My brother's bag, the messy table, Dad's car in the driveway. Something was off, but I didn't think of texting any of them. I didn't want to be weird. I went on with my morning, got ready for school, and finally opened the door to take in the winter wonderland fully. For a few moments, I just stood there in the doorway, feeling my cheeks get red in the cold. Then I stepped outside, locked the door behind me, put in my earphones, put on some music, and set off to the bus stop, enjoying the crunching of snow beneath my boots. When I got to the bus stop, I was the only person standing there. I looked at my phone to see it's 8:13 a.m. All the kids are already at school, I figured. As I stood there, waiting for the bus, one song in my ears followed by another and another, I realized that I'd been waiting for over 20 minutes. The bus I ride usually comes every 10 minutes. I thought to myself that it's probably just that the weather caused them to run late, and suddenly I had the brilliant idea to borrow my mom's car. I texted her, asking if I could, and after a few minutes of no response, which I interpreted as silent approval, I sprinted back home. As I was standing outside the door, erratically searching my pockets for the keys, so chaotically in fact that I managed to rip my earbuds out of my ears by the cable. But after fumbling for a few more seconds, I finally found my keys. But my hands were cold, and I'm already clumsy as is, so shortly after retrieving the keys from my pocket, I dropped them on the ground. I looked down, relieved to find them lying right in the middle of my footstep. I really didn't want them sinking into the deep snow lying everywhere around. And then a chilling, haunting realization came to my mind. I never saw any footsteps in the snow. There were no tread marks on the road. And then I noticed the silence. You never realize it, but normally you always hear something. The sound of car engines, distant conversations, songs of birds. But at that moment, I heard nothing. Even the wind was almost silent. An abrupt mix of panic and dread washed over me. Where is everyone? What's happening? An idea came to me. I'm probably just dreaming. But before I had time to develop that idea, I was interrupted by the least expected thing. The creak of our little wooden gate leading to the backyard. A sound I've heard 1,000 times throughout my life. Yet that day, with it being the only sound shattering the silence, I almost screamed in terror. I looked at the gate, and sure enough, it was left ajar, with some strange footsteps in the snow indicating that something, rather than someone, was now in our backyard. At that point, I'd seen enough horror movies to know that I should absolutely not investigate and instead should just hide. So that's precisely what I did. I grabbed the keys from the ground, my cold hands making it rather difficult to insert the right key into the lock. After what felt like an eternity of missing the keyhole again and again, I finally made my way inside and locked the door behind myself. I proceeded to walk through the hallway to my room as quietly as possible and slowly approached the window. Once my curiosity got the better of me, I finally gathered enough courage to peek into the backyard, and that's when I saw it. A tall, skeletal, spindly, sickly white figure was rummaging through our tool shed. Too tall to fit inside whole, instead just sticking its long, disgusting clawed arms inside and throwing stuff onto the bed of snow outside the shed. Terrified, I made a few steps back from the window and accidentally knocked over a chair. The creature instantly turned to stare at me, and it was the first time I could see its face. I'll never forget that featureless face. The deep, wide black holes where eyes should be. The nose, or lack thereof, and the tiny circular mouth. Its expression looked rather sad thinking about it now. After what felt like hours of a stare down between me and the monster outside our house, it started walking towards the window. Its movements sent shivers down my spine. It walked on two, but there was something animalistic about the way it carried itself, as if it didn't quite know how to walk. I backed off instinctively as it started picking up speed, but suddenly I tripped on the chair, and at that moment, everything went dark. I woke up in my bed with a huge headache. I was petrified. I refused to make a move. Then the door to my room opened, almost giving me a heart attack. My brother walked in. I was never happier to see him. It was all just a dream. "Still no snow," was his greeting, confirming my joyful revelation. "Mom's calling you, breakfast's ready," he uttered. Then he paused and looked at the window for a bit, as if puzzled by something. He then left the room, and I could hear him talking to Mom about something. I rolled to my other side to face the window. I had to blink a few times to make sure I wasn't seeing things. There was no sign of snow outside, but that's not what still scares me to this day. On the window to the backyard, there was a pair of large, claw-shaped scratches. Thank you for listening to this story by Frank the Senate. I hope you enjoyed sharing a few stories with me today. If you did, please like and subscribe as always. And I look forward to sharing another one with you next time. But until then, goodbye.